What's up guys, and welcome back to a new video where we'll be diving into a very interesting topic in Laravel Nova, which is policies. Quick pause. Do you want to support the channel and want me to continue on creating content? Well, you can support the channel on Patreon right now, where you get benefits such as a private Discord group where you can share your coding issues and other developers who will help you out. If you are interested to join, the link can be found in the description down below. When it comes to admin panels, you might not want to show all information to users, or you might want to hide certain functionalities if a user doesn't have the right rule inside your application. Laravel offers policies, which is part of authorization in Laravel. Policies allow you to protect content or resources from unauthorized users. Nova uses Laravel's policy structure, which can be created through the CLI. Whenever you want to make use of policies, you have to create one for a particular model or resource. Now, we won't be creating a policy for a product resource, since everyone can create a new product. But let's say that only users with an admin role can create or edit a brand. Within big applications, this prevents duplication or brands that you don't want to have within your application. So we need to make sure that we create a policy for our brand. So let's navigate to the CLI. And we're going to use the same naming conventions as making anything in Laravel. We're going to say PHP artisan make me a new policy, named brand policy. We could hit enter right here, where an empty policy class will be generated for us. But Laravel offers an option that you could add, which will create all CRUD methods for your policy. This can be done by adding the -- model is equal to product option to it. If this is your first policy, a policy directory will be created with a brand policy class inside of it. If we navigate to the browser and click on brands in the navbar, you'll see that we have been prompted with a 403. This is happening because we need to make sure that we register our policy as well, where we're basically going to tell Laravel which policy needs to be used when authorizing against a given model. Authorizing policies needs to happen inside the Auth service provider. So let's navigate back to PHP Store and let's open our Auth service provider, which is located inside the providers directory. Right here, you'll see a property called policies. So let's remove the comment inside of it and let's add our policy right here. We're going to define a key value pair right here, where the key will be our model. So brand class. And then we need to define the value, which will be the policy class, which is the brand policy. If we navigate back to the browser and refresh it right now, you'll see that we're still being prompted with a 403. So what's going on right here? When working with policies, Nova defines default permissions when it comes to the methods that have been added inside the brand policy class. I've also opened the official documentation of Laravel Nova, which is the authorization page. And if we scroll down to the bottom, you'll find the default permissions of the policy actions. You can view any, view, create, update, replicate, delete, and so on, and they have a default permission where most of them have been set to forbidden, which is basically our 403. If you don't define the methods inside your policy, it will use the default values, so it's basically returning a boolean. If it is allowed, it's returning a true. If it's forbidden, it's returning a false. We won't be covering all the policy actions right here, but once you understand how one or two works, the same principles will be used for any other. So let's navigate back to PHP Storm and let's open our brand policy. And let's start off with our first policy, which is the view any method right here. We got to tell Nova that any user that's logged in is allowed to enter the table overview. So what we could do is either return a true, or we could just return the user's object, which will also return true. If we comment out all other methods that we have defined right here, navigate back to Google Chrome, open our local host, refresh it, and right here, you'll see that our brand's overview is visible again, but all options on a resource have been removed, as you can see at the right of a row. Once again, this happens because it uses the default permissions. And for the create, update, and delete, you'll see that the default permissions right here have been set to forbidden, so basically false. Now the next method inside PHP Storm will be our view method right here. And this is basically the eye icon on the product's overview. Users with any rule can see that. So there's no harm to it. So let's return the user object. Comment out everything that's right below our view method. Navigate back to Google Chrome, localhost, refresh it, and right here you'll see that we're getting an error message because it's expecting a second argument that we're not using. So let's remove our product object, refresh it, and right here you'll see that the eye icon is visible, and if we click on it, you'll see that this option works as well. Here comes the fun part. What we have to do is telling our application that users with an admin role can create, update, and delete brands. So we basically need to make sure that we allow permissions by overriding the default one. So if we navigate back to PHP Storm and uncomment what we just comment, obviously, and start off with the create method, we basically set that the is_admin column inside our database is a boolean, so either true or false. So what we could do is basically say, well, return the user object, but only get the is_admin. Now, if we copy our return statement and add it inside the update method, and let's actually remove the product object, same thing for the delete, and restore as well, and force delete as well. Now let's navigate back to Google Chrome. Let's click on brands, and right here you'll see that the options are not visible right now, which basically means that a user that is logged in is not an admin, because by default we have set that the user is not an admin, so we need to change it manually right inside of our user's resource. We could also manually change it inside our database, but I personally think it's easier to just add a new field type right here. So let's navigate to PHP Storm, open the user's resource, scroll down, right below our passport field type, let's create a boolean with the name of is_admin. Now let's chain the sortable method to it and add the show on preview method to it. Now let me align it on the line below. All right. If we navigate back to Google Chrome, refresh it, you'll see that the user that is logged in is not an admin. So let's edit it. Let's check the checkbox. Let's update it. And if we click on brands right now, you'll see that the edit icon and the delete icon have both been added. We could even make our policy cleaner. So let's open it for a moment, right here, because every single method is using the user object. So I recommend creating a property of the user object, which you'll set inside a new constructor, which then allows you to remove the object from all methods and define it just once. So let's navigate to the top, and right below our trait, let's define a private user property, and then we're going to define a public function _construct, where we're going to say, well, this user is equal to the authenticated user. And I forgot to pull in our auth class. All right. So what we could do right now is basically say, well, let's get rid of our argument of our user object, and let's return this user. The same thing needs to be done for the view method. So we're going to return this user, create method as well. So this user, and then the is_admin column. Same thing for update. Well, we could actually copy the create method and replace it right here. Finally, the force delete. All right. And I obviously forgot to remove our arguments. Excuse me. Now let's navigate back to Google Chrome, refresh it, and right here, you'll see that this works as well. Now the last thing that I want to show you is disabling authorization for all of our Nova resource models, which needs to be done right inside of the resource class. And where I want to add it to is the user's resource. So I don't want to give anyone the option to create, edit, delete, or view a user. So what we could do is navigate back to PHP Storm, right inside of our user's resource class, scroll to the bottom, and right here we could override the public static function authorizable by simply returning true. If we navigate back to Google Chrome and refresh it, and right here you'll see that all resource operations have been disabled. Now this was it for this episode where we dived into policies in Nova. In the next video, we will be looking at the global search. If you do like my content and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button.